Local support for News 6 has been provided by the Northwest Ohio Educational Technology Foundation, Bowling Green State University, and the members of WBGU-TV.
Hi! We're the 6th grade class of Bataan Memorial School, home of the Redskins. Welcome to News 6!
Hi, I'm Chantel Wilson from Bataan Elementary School. Welcome to News 6 with today's first story. Here's Corey Neiswanger.
Today's first story highlights Bataan High School's new Performing Arts Center. Matt Fick brings News 6 the story.
Now let the show begin. How was the auditorium built?
In 1988, a community survey was put out by the Board of Education to ask them what types of improvements they would like to see made in the city school system. One of the things that they asked for was an auditorium to be built at the high school. And so at that point, the board instigated a bond issue to raise money to build the facility that we have today.
Can you tell us about the special features of the auditorium?
The one that I'm most interested in is the computerized lighting system, which allows all sorts of flexibility in control of stage lighting and special effects. One of the other things that's special about this facility is the very nice sound system that was installed here. The other special feature for this auditorium, which most school auditoriums don't have, is the rigging system or fly system.
What about the scenery? How do you change it?
If you have scenery that is a flying piece of scenery and is used in the rigging system, which we talked about before, you can actually fly that out of the audience's view and up above all of the other curtains, and that's the way the scenery is moved around the stage.
What types of performances are planned for the auditorium?
We have the capability of doing all types of plays, dance concerts, ballet or modern dance concerts. We've already used the building for a choir concert for the high school, and we'll continue to use it for that. Band concerts are scheduled, orchestra concerts.
Today's News 6 is produced by the 6th grade class of Bataan Elementary School. Bataan Elementary is located in Port Clinton, about 36 miles east of Toledo. It was founded in 1928 and has a population of 7,200.
Recently, News 6 had the chance to meet Mary Babcock, a painter that doesn't paint canvases but china. Angel Santoya has the story.
It takes a long time for Mary Babcock to do her dishes. Let's see why. How did you start painting and get into this business?
I was in ceramics for quite a few years, perhaps 20 years, and it became too heavy, and I was fascinated by the art of painting on china. You can make dinnerware besides pretty plates.
Could you show us how you make the paintings?
The paint is in a powder form. It is mixed with a media, with a real small palette knife, and then it is put on with a brush. It can be put on in an original design or it can be copied. We paint a thin layer of paint on the design that we want, and then it is fired in the kiln.
How do you decide on the price you charge?
Well, the first is the consideration of the piece that's put on. It might be something that has been purchased and is very expensive, and it may be something that is small. And then the other is the amount of work that's put on, the number of fires and so forth. And then the quality of work, and then again, whether it is original.
Are China paintings the only work you do?
It is at this time. However, I do paint on porcelain. Porcelain bisque. Bisque is the porcelain that has been fired to a high temperature one time, and then we paint on it.
This week's Kids View question asks the 6th graders what they would do to fight the homelessness. Here's what we found out.
Hi, I'm Trisha, reporting for News 6. Today's Kids View question is, how will you help the homeless?
I would help the homeless by inviting them into my house and help them to get a job.
I would help the homeless by fixing up old homes and installing modern conveniences in them.
I would provide the homeless with food, shelter, and warm clothing.
Today's last story took Kevin Bradley into the Scandura belt plant to talk with its engineer. Here's what he discovered.
Brooke Clinton's Scandura belt plant. They keep things moving. When was the plant opened?
The plant was actually opened in 1972, but the building itself goes back to about 1920, when it was actually part of the old Camp Perry. And in this particular building, they made artillery shells.
Can you show us how the belts are made?
Conveyor belt has two main ingredients in it. One is a woven fabric, and one is rubber. The actual first step of the process is a fabric treating process. The fabric is dipped in a rubber latex solution. The second step of the process is a calendar process. And as you pass the fabric between the rolls, you can put whatever thickness of rubber you want to. Now the next step of the process would be the laminating line. And we take one ply of fabric from the calendar, put in one let off, the second ply, put in the second let off, and we ply the two together or laminate the two together. The next step of the production process is what we call the vulcanizing press. The vulcanization of the rubber does two things. It adds strength to the rubber and elasticity to the rubber. The final process step in making conveyor belts is what we call our inspection, trim, and slit process.
What are the belts used for?
The biggest single industry that uses our belts is the mining industry. Another industry that uses some of our belting is the grain industry. We also have some applications in airports, for example, baggage handling. One application that you'd be very familiar with is at your local grocery store.
Does Scandura have any special equipment?
We have a 52-foot press that was fabricated in 1987, and it happens to be the longest conveyor belt press in the world. Alongside this press is a press that was built in 1918, and believe it or not, this press is still functioning and performing very well today. One other piece of equipment that I think is somewhat unique is the traveling overhead cranes that we have in our plant.
That's all for this week's show. Thank you for tuning in. Join us next week when Our Lady of Consolation Carey visits News 6.
Local support for News 6 has been provided by the Northwest Ohio Educational Technology Foundation, Bowling Green State University, and the members of WBGU-TV.